To the Mallard Report. I'm your host, Jim Mallard. Before the Fast Hour on Paranormal Talk Radio starts, please go over to facebook.com/italkparanormal and give it a like. And leave a message telling me what show you're listening to. I enjoy the fan feedback.
The opinions expressed on the Mallard Report are those of the hosts and participants and are not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any simulcasting radio network or sponsor. All listeners are advised to make their own decisions.
It's the Mallard Report, yeah, the Mallard Report, the Paranormal Talk Radio Show with Jim Mallard as your host. See what lies beneath any paranormal activity. Go inside a world that others don't want to see. It's the Mallard Report, yeah, the Mallard Report.
That it is. I want to welcome everybody to today's Mallard Report. I'm getting better about that. I also want to mention tonight's sponsor, who is Kimberly Simon. She's in the chat room, so if I slaughter this read, she is going to yell at me. So here we go. Unleashing the Shameless Woman is not another informational class or intellectual exercise. This is exploring your inner terrain to your own light. When you deny parts of yourself, you are judged as negative and capture yourself's happiness and creativity. Buried the influences of your decisions and actions. To this day, every choice has an impact. This transformative experience to bring the light to the shadows and expose the hidden gems in your life. Kimberly asks, are you ready to open your heart, open that wide? Join us October 29th for 6 weeks to love yourself free. KimberlySimon.com/shameless, or click any of the banners on iTalk Paranormal. And I'll forgive everybody that goes over and joins this class because I know it's during my show. Conflict of interest, I guess, so to speak. But I believe in Kimberly Simon. She's helped me with my show. Different course, not the Shameless Woman thing, but that's a whole other can of worms for a whole other day. But we'll have that conversation another time. My guest tonight is Tom Moore, author, returning guest. How are you doing tonight, Tom?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me again, Jim. It's been a little while.
Man, it's surprising how fast time flies, and how many people just, once you start get going, people are like, hey, I've got this book, hey, I've got this, and hey, I've got this. So you've got, I think we've discussed, we were just talking a little bit off air, that you've got 2 new books out, so we're going to try to touch on both of them.
Okay.
But I just want you to give yourself, I know you do the newsletter, and we'll have the books, so why don't we just start with the little self-promotion bit so we can make sure I get that recorded and out of the way.
Okay. My website is www.thegentleWayBook.com, and on it you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter, which is free, and you can also read my weekly blogs, which have nothing but inspiring stories sent to me from all over the world from people requesting benevolent outcomes in their lives. And there's lots of other things, articles and some videos and you name it. Check it out, and I think you'll find there's a ton of stuff to read.
Which also features the Most Benevolent Outcomes, which is part of the Gentle Way series of books, right?
Yes.
So why don't we? I know you have the third one is just. I mean, we were just discussing. I haven't even. I was going to look. I haven't got a second. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about those before I tell people if it's that where we're talking about or not before I get in trouble. So tell me about the series and what makes the third book stand out.
Okay. The Gentle Way 3 book is the title is The Gentle Way 3, Master Your Life. And what is in the book, it's over 350 pages. And, again, these are stories that are sent to me from all over the world from people that are requesting benevolent outcomes in their lives and are having successes. And what my publisher did was to take all of these stories and categorize them into chapters. So there's chapters about work, chapters about medical, chapters about severe storms and how people were even saved from tornadoes or whatever. And just a large variety. There's like 35 chapters or so, I think, and just on many subjects and in that reflect on the human life and how and how these people have less stressful and less fearful lives because of requesting benevolent outcomes. It's the greatest modality I've ever found. Much, much, much better than the law of attraction.
Okay, so just I remember we had this conversation last time you were on. So tell people what requesting a most benevolent outcome is.
Okay. Requesting a benevolent outcome is a request for something specific for you. And in my belief system, I believe that the request goes to my guardian angel. And I believe that, and my guardian angel has told me in meditation that basically what happens is that because your guardian angel can see the road ahead of you, they'll know whether the request that you're making is in your best short-term interests and your best long-term interests. If it is, then the request is granted, and things happen to bring you that request, whether it be a mundane request like a parking spot in front of a busy restaurant, or post office, or wherever you have to go on a daily basis, or whether it's something really, really important to you, like requesting the perfect mate or the perfect home or the perfect job for you, which obviously these things take longer. You have to be patient with them, and as my guardian angel Theo says, humans are very impatient. So you have to be patient, and if you can do that, if you can start requesting simple benevolent outcomes for those parking spaces or seat on the train or bus or whatever you do, however you get to work each day, then you're going to find your life is going to get easier, and it's going to seem sometimes as if a miracle happens. And I've had plenty of people said, "My gosh, this was a miracle," or I just had a blog that I think I put in. It's either in last week's blog or it's going to be in this Saturday's blog because obviously I work ahead. And a lady was telling me that a doctor told her friend that how she got over a medical condition in one day was absolutely a miracle, and she had requested a benevolent outcome for it. So it does work, and amazingly so at times.
I had you on probably I think about a year ago. Geez, like I said, it's just amazing how fast time does go. And you were telling me about the parking space thing, so I tried it. The first few times it didn't work, and I'm like, I got to stick with this because obviously, if he has enough conviction in to write it in a book, there's got to be something more to it than I'm getting at this point. So of course I started, and it did start to turn, and now I do incorporate it in some other things. So it does. Like I said, I had to try it more than once, but once you get in the habit of asking for the best in your life, good things start to flow out. So
yeah, and you can't request a benevolent outcome, 25 feet from the entrance to the parking garage or something. I mean, if you request it before you even get in the car, it gives your GA, as I call guardian angels, it gives your GA time to do their magic, and that person that was going to leave and drive out of that parking garage is just sort of maneuvered to leave at the exact moment that your car pulls into the lane of that parking garage. So that's the way it works. And as I say, you can't request them at the last minute. Although obviously, if your life is in danger, you can. And then they pull out all stops to help you.
So it has worked for me. So now I just need to request more and open myself up to it more. But I think probably having you on probably.
You have to make it a habit, and once you make it a habit, it's you won't want to go anywhere without requesting one. I just since we last talked in I think April it was I was requesting a benevolent outcome for my drive home, and I was on a busy 6-lane street, and a lady did not see a pickup truck that was probably, say, 20 yards in front of me, and she turned right in front of the pickup truck, and he broadsided her SUV, lifted it right off the ground, and it turned it around 180 degrees, and I came to a stop about 6 feet from her door. So it was, I was saying thank you when that happened, because it was really close.
That's just incredible to think about how close that was and how close you came to having a mess on your hands. Yep.
Because I wasn't that far behind him, and I had to slam on the brakes, and just put it almost through the floor to get it to stop, right in front of her door. So anyway, that's just a one story that's happened to me in recent times.
That's a personal story that has happened to you. And by the way, you mentioned Amazon to me when we were getting on because of some kind of conflict, but I do see it here. So it is there in Kindle form and paperback form, so people can go get the third one, the first one, and the second one. I almost lost count. That was bad. I can count the three people, I promise, most nights.
Yep. Third one is available, and I will ask everyone, if you buy it on Amazon, please write a nice, glowing review. That helps authors with their sales, and some people don't realize that, but when you think about it, everybody reads reviews these days. Before you're buying anything, I mean, whether it's a TV or some piece of clothing, everyone's looking up reviews, and these reviews do help your poor authors sell a few books.
That's a very good point. That's always a good point. Authors normally seem to gloss over that, but I think anybody that takes the time to write a book, and you take the time to read it, and if you enjoyed it, take the time to write a few words, paragraph, whatever it may be, to encourage them to put out the next book.
Exactly. It's our passion, and very honestly, you don't get, unless you're a tremendously well-known author. I heard one author, Bill O'Reilly, he's making $10 million on his book. I think it's called Killing Jesus. And I said, oh, my goodness, because most authors, you do it for the passion of what you believe in, or whatever what you want to do. And most authors just cannot make a living separate. We all typically, most of us have second jobs.
Yeah, it's tough to survive on that, but I think your brand's growing enough, so maybe if you keep requesting it, that's almost real wood, I think. Maybe it'll happen. We'll see. So
there we go.
Now I want to shift gears. I was kind of surprised when I got the email from you with the blurb in it about this, the first contact conversations with E.T. I was kind of surprised because I knew your previous work and I had you on, and I didn't really expect this type of thing to come from you. So before I ask more specific questions, just give me a general overview of what you got going on there.
Okay. It's actually not as far out as it initially seems, because one day I was talking to Theo, my guardian angel, about old ancient ruins, ET ruins that were in Europe, and he said, "Oh, Syrian's going to show show those to you one day." And I thought, did you mean me personally, or did you mean us humans? And he said, no, you personally. I said, oh, that'll be great, And so he went on to say, yes, he's tuning into us right now. And when I got over the shock that I wasn't on a private line with my own guardian angel, this was a party line, he said, do you want to ask him questions? And I said, no, let me think of some questions, and I'll come back in a few days and start asking questions. So that's how it came out, and it turns out that this ET is an amphibian, which really shocked me. I thought he would look like us, but he doesn't. And he lives on the water world in the Sirius B star system, and he's a member of my soul group or soul cluster. In other words, my soul has 8 fragments having lives on Earth, and he's one of the 8 fragments along with me. So that's our connection. We are actually from the same soul, and so we have a very close connection.
That just blows my mind. The whole soul thing and see, now I don't even know what to ask. See, I had these pretty...
Well, okay. Antura, as I told you, is he's a member of my soul group, and
right.
He also has lives on Earth. In fact, he's had 800 lives on Earth so far, and he's about 422 years old. Is almost, but his years are universal years, and universal years. Well, I should say. Let me restate that. Earth years are 10 years for every one universal year. So, in other words, he would be the equivalent in Earth years of 4,000 years, but because universal years are much, much slower than Earth years, and Earth years are faster because we need to learn things at a tremendously fast pace in order to eventually get us to the stars. So in other words, it's like cramming for a test in a way that they're cramming it. They're cramming this learning process down our throats as fast as we can handle it in order for us to get to the stars earlier than had we just been on universal years.
Just blows my mind. So how long is the process that you're referring to, from cramming for the test to get to the next point?
Well, yeah, we're finally going to reach the stars. I mean, people think it's going to happen a lot faster than it is, but it's not. I mean, when you think about even going to Mars, okay, they're having to develop a new space suit. They're developing new rockets. You know, they're doing tremendous developments, and it's going to take 25 years for all of these developments to be done. I mean, you know, and that's considered pretty fast. So, you know, nobody's going to be going to Mars. You know, some people are talking, I'm signing up for a one-way trip to Mars. Yeah, it'd be one way. You'd last, you know, about at most a week on the planet before you die. So it's going to be 25 years. We're going to get to Mars, but to get to the stars, it's not going to happen until 3250. That's when we finally are able to figure out how to do these portal jumps and things like that, which is how all these people that are millions and billions of years farther along in technology than we are, they're able to do these jumps that are called portal hops, and that's how they go across the universe. And we won't be able to learn that until about 3250, and then supposedly my next life after this one is going to be back on that water world, because I'm from that water world. I was one of the very first souls that had a life there 18 million years ago, and those guys are new kids on the block because some of the planets in the Sirius B star system are over 1 billion years old, okay? So they were new kids in the block, but I'm going to have a life back there, and I'm going to leave 1,500 years, but then after that, my next life on Earth will be in 3400 AD, and I'll be a female space pilot of one of 17 Earth starships. Okay, so by 3400 we will have constructed 17 starships.
It's tough to think about going to Mars, let alone the long-term ramifications of all of that. So I mean, there's serious people out there that don't think we've been to the moon yet. So it's just kind of like I said.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that amazing? Oh gosh. And in fact, one of the things that I'm supposed to do, which will be kind of interesting, is that Antura is going to take me to the moon. He's going to go speedily, like 20,000 miles an hour or something, or faster, who knows, to the moon. But then he's going to portal hop back to show me what a portal hop looks and feels like and all that stuff. Okay, but we're going to go to the moon, and in one of these scout ships that holds about, 8 people, whatever. And one of the other things that I'm supposed to do, and he didn't tell me this until January, just before I was closing the book off in February of this year. I'm supposed to shoot the first documentary ever done on board his mothership, which is like a mile wide, 4 decks, a crew of 850. I and my family are supposed to shoot a documentary on board the mothership.
So, I mean, I know that's not out of your range of things that you've done in your life, but I mean, I read your prepared questions, but now I'm not prepared as much as I thought I was.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm trying. There's so many connections going on, and so many different thoughts and things in my mind. So let's go back to the beginning. When your guardian angel made the connection.
Okay.
How did you take it? Obviously, you had to ponder what actually was going on, or how did this all come? I mean,
well, as I say, the first reaction was shock because I didn't know that other people could tune into us. Okay, but because he's part of the soul group, my soul allows it. The guardian, my guardian angel Theo is also the guardian angel for Antura when he has lives on Earth. So in other words, they're well connected too. So everything was a good connection, and that's why it was easier for him to communicate with me. So after that, when I first started talking to him or communicating, with these, basically it's a form of telepathy, and I guess we could get into telepathy in just a minute to explain the past, present, and future of telepathy. Probably we need to do that for people that are kind of skeptic about how this process works. But when we started out, I sincerely thought that he would look just like us because I'd always read that the first ETs that we're going to see are going to look just like us. Well, it turns out the Pleiadians are going to be the first ETs. They're coming in 2015, and they will look almost identical to us with a slight difference in ears, but from what I understand, pretty slight. And they're going to be smaller people. I mean, obviously in the Pleiades they have all ranges, sizes of beings there, but these are going to be human-looking people. They're going to be like 5 feet 3 or 4, whatever. They're going to look very unaggressive. They're just going to look like sort of meek kind of little people. And these are first contact people that have done this maybe several hundred times before, so they know what they're doing. Okay, and so that's what I thought was going to happen, and that's why I was so shocked when I started asking him questions, and he starts telling me he's got web hands and web feet, and and we start going over how he looks like, and he's an amphibian, and he can swim down 5,000 feet below the ocean where his city is located, and they have several cities all around this water world in the Sirius B star system. There's only 10% land on this planet, and all the rest is water. So that's where they live. And 18 million years ago, they lived in caves, and as their society grew, they started building on top of the caves, And that's how these cities were built, on top of caves that they were already living in for protection. Because there's supposedly like a whale-sized monster fish that just loves to eat poor little amphibians.
As I say, some things never change.
Yeah, he says they stay well away from that one. So anyway,
do they have a family unit? I was glancing back at your questions again, since we're talking about their habitat. Yes,
he has a mate, and he has 2 boys. He calls them his little tadpoles, affectionately.
Well, of course, I'd hope.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a cute, affectionate comment, his little tadpoles. And the city they live in is a dome city that has lots of water inside the dome, but it's dry in places, but there's lots of pools and everything because they like to jump in and dip in and they're water beings. They like to have water around them. And so and they live in sort of an apartment unit in their city. And the city has about a million amphibians living in it.
I just can't imagine. And when you say water, I'm assuming we're still talking about the same kind of liquid, kind of bluish.
It's a little
thing.
different. He says it's a little different than ours, but it's still water.
Okay.
But it just is made up of little different properties. He says there's some planets, and I think, and honestly, I'm going from memory here, that are in either his solar system or he's been to, whatever, that the water is so toxic and so brackish that they actually cannot swim just, with their bodies. They have to be surrounded by a force field that protects their bodies. The liquid is so corrosive and harsh that their bodies would not be able to stand it.
Yeah, So you like I said, I referenced your questions again because I needed to regroup and gather some. You mentioned spacesuits for us to go to Mars. How about them coming back here to? Well, I guess you've done this spiritually connection, but how would that work if they were to really visit?
What do you mean?
Well, if they were going to come, like you said, he was going to come take you to the moon. Would he need a spacesuit to come here? I guess I'm slaughtering your question, but.
Oh, no, they use these force field devices. And, in fact, he'll give me, and I'm taking my family along because my daughter is a film school graduate, worked as an editor in Los Angeles for a year on a couple of motion pictures and has worked, as crew on 2 or 3 other motion pictures. And so she'll probably be my director. Then the rest of us will sort of be crew, and I'll do the interviews, or who knows who, I don't know. But that's my plan. The nice thing about it is that because they are able to travel in time, I'll be able to. Now this is a film guy talking, okay? I'll be able to rent all the film equipment for one day, and we'll go off for a month and come back, and it will not. And he'll drop me off, 15 minutes after we left.
Walk back in, take the stuff back in, and say it didn't work and get your money back.
No, just walk in and say, well, I'm paying for one day's rental. That's it. So not a bad deal from a film standpoint. Keeps the cost of the production down. But anyway, we should talk about telepathy a little bit because. That's what I do with them, and a lot of people don't understand it, or they would be skeptical. And so let me kind of explain. I don't know how much of your audience will have heard of the Rhine ESP experiments. The Rhine Institute is at Duke University, I believe it is, and for 25 years they've done tests and things like that. And basically, and if somebody wants to Google this, they can Google images that type in Rhine ESP, and they'll see how it was set up. It's like 2 school desks pushed together with a board in between them, and they'd have these cards that would be like stars and circles and wavy lines and things like that, and they would have a sender and a receiver, and they would test to see how many of them they would get correct. Now, if anyone, I'm sure most of your listeners have seen Ghostbusters. In the opening scene of Ghostbusters, the professor, played by Bill Murray, has these two students. He's trying to seduce this female student, and he's got this other kid. Both of them are hooked up to an electrical device, and he gives them a shock each time they get the wrong answer. Well, the girl never gets shocked. He says, "Oh yeah, that was correct. That was correct." And the other kid he wants to get rid of, so he doesn't have him. And so he keeps telling him, "No, you got it wrong," and he sends an electrical charge to him. The cards they were using in that scene are the Ryan Institute ESP cards. So I bring that up for people that might remember that scene. So anyway, my contention is that had the sender and the receiver been put into a light alpha meditative state, basically a light state where that you can still function, but you're still in an altered state, their results of their tests would have been much higher, and to the point where with a little bit of practice, both people would be sending and receiving whole sentences and not just worrying about cards with wavy lines on them. Okay? So that's one thing that I point out. Now, something that people also don't think about is that telepathy is instantaneous. Now, Edgar Mitchell, I can't remember his first name, one of the astronauts actually did some a test with 25 random numbers on a spaceship, coming back from the moon, I think it was, and he even tested this out, and 40 would have been completely random, a score of 40, and his people scored like 51 or something like that. Again, it was still not nearly as well had everyone been in these light altered states. Now, something else people are not thinking about, because most of the scientists, they would have to have an alien sit on their desk before they would believe there's actually aliens until it's proved to them. All they've seen are microbes or whatever, and there's no proof of any kind of living thing outside Earth. But in the future, how are we going to communicate with other beings that we go out into the universe? Yes, the Federation of Planets that Antura's planet is part of, there's 200 of these planets, they all have these translator devices which are incorporated in the force field devices that will translate every single language and sound and whatever you want to call it in the universe. They have not found one single one, because it works on brain waves, works on feelings, you name it, and this translator device will translate. But when we go out to the stars, we're going to start going to planets probably like Antura describes in the book, where they went to a desert planet and called on a society of sloth-looking people. They look like sloths, animals or whatever, and they're intelligent, but they're still living in the ground. They're thousands of years away from developing into a very intelligent space-going society. But that's what his team does, is they go contact these planets thousands of years in advance to say, here we are. Now, in that case, this force field device also can give them a different shape, and so they were shaped like wise old sloths, so that the sloths would not be afraid of them, to tell them that they would be happy to help them at some point. So that's what we're going to be doing, and we're going to have to be able to at least telepathically communicate with the people that we meet out there that are not as far along as the Federation.
And my guest tonight is Tom Morton. He is blowing my mind with talk of his communication with ET, which is just, well, I mean, talking to a guardian angel still blows my mind at times. So this whole other level on top of it just.
But believe it or not, I have people that read my newsletter that are all into me talking to my guardian angel, but find it hard to believe in ETs because they've been so brainwashed that there's no one out there but us, and it's a little fearful to them. But one other thing I will point just to return to telepathy one more time is that when we go out, there's going to be at least 3 or 5 members of the crews on these spaceships that will be telepaths, and who knows, maybe the whole crew will be. I don't know, but they can't probably just work with one, because what would happen if that person got sick or was killed in some manner or whatever? They would be up Salt Creek without a paddle. They'd have to return to Earth. So I'm just pointing out that there will be a need for people to develop telepathy in the future.
Makes sense to me. I mean, I think that's the next level. We were talking about levels of communication right before we went on air, how we're so happy they invented the fax machine, and now we were talking about writing emails and all this stuff. I mean, that seems like the natural progression, like you were saying, of where we're headed. So,
right. My film distribution company was distributing a film called Cyberstalker back in 1995, and the producers came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to show our film in a theater here in Dallas, and we're also going to put it on the internet." And I said, "What's the internet?" I mean, and you can imagine at that point how long it took to upload that 90-minute film or whatever it was onto the internet. But we were I can say we were the very first distribution company to have a film put up on the internet.
I was going to say, I can't imagine how long it would take to download it then, or for somebody to watch it, because I remember watching the 15-second video clips, and I had to wait hours for them.
Yeah.
But wow.
Oh, and you can imagine there was probably fewer than, I don't know, who knows, 20 or 50 computers in the country that could download a whole movie. Maybe I hazard a guess. I don't know how many computers were that sophisticated at that time.
Yeah, I mean, probably not that many. I can't even imagine trying to. I still can't even imagine trying to make a movie and upload it and sell it and all that stuff. But
yeah,
I play with this little radio show. I can't imagine putting the editing and all that other stuff. So movies baffle me. Pictures. That's why I do radio. Mm-hmm. One dimension.
But an intimate dimension.
Takes people back to a different time. That's for sure. So, okay. One last question about the ET, and then we'll get back into the most relevant outcomes and all your stuff that you've got going on. And can they help us say? I mean, because you're talking a deep timeline, the 3,000. I didn't write it down, but 3,000 something. Are they going to help us keep the planet here that long? Because I mean, if you listen to some talk radio pundits, speaking of radio, that we're doomed and we're going to be done in the next decade.
No. One time I asked Theo, I said, Theo, how long have you been a guardian angel for humans, And he said, basically, over 1 million years. Actually, I was able to find out later, as, they have to sort of spoon-feed things to you as you learn. And it's been like over a couple million years that humans needed guardian angels on Earth. And I said, well, how long in the future are you going to continue with this job? And he said 7,000 years. So I said, 7,000 years? That's awful short, when you've been here a couple of million. And he said, yes, Tom, but he says, every experiment has a beginning and an end. And that's going to be the end of the Earth experiment. And the Earth, what's going to happen is that humans will leave the Earth in 7,000 years, and the Earth will be turned into a huge park. And people from all over the universe will come to visit this beautiful planet and all the beautiful fauna, because supposedly there's almost no other planet in the universe that's as beautiful as ours.
Well, I would believe that for sure, that we have a beautiful planet. Just sometimes I wish we'd take a little bit better care of it. But anyways, whole other conversation for, probably another time. But
but so here these guys, here the Pleiadians are going to come in 2015. They're going to land in Russia first, and then they're going to make their way around the world. And people say, well, why Russia? Why not the United States? And when I asked that, Ventura said, if we landed in the United States first, the people would think that it was an invasion L.A., and they'd be coming out of their houses with their shotguns and rifles and AK-47s or whatever these guys got.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, and so they're going. The Russians are much more open to this than we are, and so they're going to start with the Russians, and they're going to slowly work their way around the world, eventually coming to the United States. Now, after that, they're going to show up a couple more times, spoon-feeding us information about our history, the world, about the Federation, that kind of stuff. And then, lo and behold, in 2016, the Zeta Greys are going to show up to apologize for abducting almost 26,000 people. And so they're going to show up. And I told Ventura, I said, my gosh, can you imagine, here, because he told me these Zeta Greys were not abducting people once or twice. They were abducting people 30 and 50 times on average, and even as many as 100 times. And they would have to keep, like if they were impregnating a female, they would have to keep her on board the spaceship for over 9 months. Now, eventually, they worked that down to 4 months because they found out they could take the fetus and have it grow outside the womb, okay? And they were able to put the women back in their beds, 10 minutes after they left or whatever. So there was no notice. But, there would be times where a woman would go to visit her gynecologist, and the gynecologist would say, you've been pregnant recently. And she'd say, no, I haven't. Because they'd wipe out the short-term memories of these people. And so can you imagine having these Zetas suddenly on TV, what kind of flood of memories it's going to have for people that have this buried if they haven't started already having hypnosis to bring these memories out before these Zetas get here.
Just mind-blowing. I could think of 36,000 people that we need abducted, but we don't want them back.
Yeah, starting with certain members of Congress, but that's another story. And
only certain members? Is there some that we should not?
There's got to be a few good eggs in there, and so then just before the Syrians come, the Pleiadians will come back and say, now look, this next group of people or beings are going to be really different. So we just want to let you know, because when the Syrians come, there's going to be on board that spaceship. Ventura told me there's going to be bird beings, there's going to be plant beings, if you can imagine plant beings. There's intelligent plant beings. There's going to be insect beings. There's going to be a couple of reptilians, and so and different sizes of humanoids. Although they're not going to bring anyone taller than 7 feet with them this time, because he says there are places where there are actually 15 foot tall humanoids, and I said, well, are any reptilians 15 feet tall? Oh yes, there are. And I said, my gosh, can you imagine meeting a 15-foot reptilian in a dark alley? I'd have to change my pants.
Foot tall. I just can't even imagine. I mean, I don't like heights that much, so I'm trying to picture being eye to eye with something that high. You know what I'm saying? Being 5'9".
Well, he'd have to pick you up to be eye to eye.
Oh, but I'm saying, or be up on my ladder that I don't want to be up on that high on. But either way, it's just kind of like, people report Bigfoot being 8-9 feet, so you kind of that's still another me. I'd be standing on Bigfoot's shoulder.
Yeah, and another question I asked was, besides understanding why, I didn't find out the final reason for me being one of the contactees, as we call it, but he explained to me, because he's, as I told you, part of a first contact team. Part of the team will be doing government contacts. Another part of the team will be doing scientific contacts. But in order to not seem elitist, there 4 of them, including Antura, are going to be doing what are called grassroots contacts. And each one of them has 3 people that are their grassroots contacts. And so besides me, Antura is contacting another member of our soul group or cluster, a lady that lives in Provence in France, and I've actually been to this village. I just didn't know that I had a soul cluster member living there, and the other person lives in Taiwan, and so those are the contactees that Antura is going to be working with when he comes to Earth. So that's all part and parcel, and the other first contact team members that are contacting Earth, grassroots people, they're also going to be humanoid, but in the book I give a description of them that he's given me. So they look more humanoid, more like people than Antura does. So Antura has really prepared me. In fact, if anyone in your audience wants to Google images from the Hellboy movies, there is a character in the Hellboy movies called Abe Sapien, S-A-P-I-E-N, and Abe Sapien is about as close as science fiction has gotten to what Antura looks like, because Abe Sapien is also an amphibian. But Abe Sapien has these big gills underneath his jaw, and Antura just has one gill behind his ear, and it's very, not very noticeable until he needs to use it.
Yeah, that's cool to think about. It's like I said, you've kind of got me all deep in thought, pondering. You think you have it all under control, and then you start adding things to it, and then somebody adds something that kind of, I don't want to say icing on the cake, but that top layer that adds the whole thing, and it kind of pushes everything down a little bit, makes you think some more. So.
Yeah, and something else that I found out, there really was a real Star Wars, okay? And it happened 200,000 years ago in Universal Time, which would be 2 million years ago Earth time. And it turns out that the reptilians decided that they wanted to take over some worlds for their resources, and so they attacked out of the blue these planets and took them over, and so there was this great battle that lasted several thousand universal years long, and it was very nasty. Antura said, he said, in your science fiction movies, you've seen where they've blown up a planet. He said, in reality, they wouldn't blow up a planet. They would blow up the sun of the solar system, and destroy all the planets in the solar system with billions and billions of beings on those planets. So that's how bad it was. And eventually they have come, they have settled, and the reptilians have even withdrawn from the planets that they took over as part of the peace. And that's why there are going to be 2 reptilians on board the spacecraft coming with them. That supposedly everybody's hunky-dory, peaceful, yada, yada. I hope so.
I'd love peace. I mean, I think that I'd be great to be somewhere that I don't want to say happy, but just level and calm and not wanting to, start wars.
But that's why we live such short lives, is that we're under such stress all the time because of all the stuff being crammed into our lives in such a short period of time, and so much negativity that we've had to work with. And I asked Antura, I mean, what could Earth possibly bring to the table for this federation of 200 planets? And by the way, they're not the only federation. There's like 5 or 6 others in the Milky Way galaxy, and all but one of them are friendly. One of them wants to be left alone, so they leave it alone. So, but this federation of 200 planets, I said, what are we going to be able to give to them? And he said, we are the only planet in not only this universe, but the billions of other universes out there that have been able to work with negativity. And when we go to the stars, we're going to start doing things like bringing games to these other planets. And games are require negativity because there's a winner and a loser. And so no one plays games. And we're going to bring these little bitty things like games to these other planets, and they in turn it's going to start raising their vibrational levels again because they've stagnated for several million years. And as their vibrational levels start raising again, they're going to be like almost missionaries, and they're going to carry these little negativity stuff to other planets all over the universe. And that's how it's going to spread. So we're very, very important to them.
Well, that is one thing I could surely guarantee that we can give them is our experiences with negative people.
Yeah, that's. But it's. And another thing I found out, as part of his first contact team, besides that desert planet, they actually visited. There's a universe that we can actually see in our night sky. That's how close it is to us. And we think it's our universe, but in actuality, it's the next universe over, adjacent to ours. And so they actually visited that universe to see the differences. And he said, Tom, you don't have any understanding yet of even the differences between planets in this universe. But he said, I can tell you that universe is really different in its planet in the makeup of the planets and everything. He said it's just really, really different. So that's something to come in our explorations in the future as we learn the portal hop, because there's at least one portal out of the 60 portals on Earth that we have that actually goes to this other universe.
Just amazing, Tom. So I want to shift gears real quick. I mean, we've got a couple minutes left.
Sorry.
So no, you're fine.
Okay.
You did great. That's great. I wanted to hear it. That's why we went there. You did great explaining everything to me. I'm still kind of just all over the place, but I want to get you a chance to promote your stuff and tell me anything else that you may have going on in the near future.
Okay. Again, for the people that missed it at the start of the hour, my website is www.thegentleWaybook.com, or you can go to it by etconversations.com. Both of them go to the same place. And you can sign up for my weekly newsletter where I ask questions of Theo and Antura and other beings each week. And also I have a weekly blog that has nothing but stories sent to me from all over the world that a lot of them you will read in that the Gentle Way book, 3 book, because that's where they came from, were my blogs originally. And they've all been put into chapters with headings like work and travel and relationships and things like that. So that's that. My book also is First Contact: Conversations with an ET, and you can find it on Amazon or other book websites, and hopefully give it a try. Read the sample chapters on my website. I've got sample chapters of all my books on the website.
Sounds like a good idea. So, I mean, what's next for you? I mean, obviously you're probably writing another book, I'm assuming. I'll have to put too much pressure on you since you just finished one, but...
Three more books, actually, I'm working on. I'm working on First Contact 2 because I keep asking questions of Ventura every single week. And, I asked him several questions this morning as an example. And so that will eventually be arranged into a book. I'm going to be doing a book on like Guardian Angel 101 of all the conversations I had with my Guardian Angel, who explains all these things we've had questions about. And I'm working on a book on Atlantis. And I think there's another one out there, but we'll see.
Yeah, it could be, and there'll probably be a 4th Gentle Way book if all continues to go well there. So.
Yep, we'll see. Please buy the book 3 and make a 4th one happen.
Go! I'll bring it full circle. That's what I'm working on anyway. So go write a review and tell me you want more of them, and of course he'll accommodate us. I'm sure if we get enough people posting reviews that are positive and uplifting, and
yep. So it's just like my First Contact book. It's only been out since June 26th, and I already have 25 5-star reviews on Amazon.com. So go to Amazon.com and read the reviews and see what other people say.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard it from the author, hear it from other people, and make your decision. That's all I can do. Put it out there on the table for people, and that's all any of us can do. Put it out there and let people find it. So I want to thank you, Tom. And if it's another year, but we'll get you back on. Don't worry.
Hopefully not so long. I do appreciate having me on, Jim, and I wish everyone a benevolent evening.
Well, thank you, sir. And just go check out the books, or the newsletter even, if you just want a short pace until you get used to it. It's all good. And like I said, they have worked for me, so they'll probably work for you. But with that being said, I want to thank Kimberly Simon. Come to italkparanormal.com and click the banner and go see what she's got going on. I'm not going to read it again tonight because I'm out of time. Good night, everybody.
Well, before we flip that on-air sign to the off position, a quick reminder. For all things about the report, previews, and reviews, go to italkparanormal.com.
This is Thomas P. Fusco, author of the book Behind the Cosmic Veil, A New Vision of Reality, and originator of the theory of supergeometry. And you are listening to The Mallard Report.
Hi, this is Dave Roundtree, author of Paranormal Technology, Understanding the Science of Ghost Hunting, lecturer, author, and paranormal researcher. And when you're not busy in the field, do what I do and listen to The Mallard Report with Jim Mallard.
If you're looking for a radio show where all things paranormal go, well, tune in and be in the know with Jim Mallard as your host. Come and see what lies beneath paranormal activity. The Mallard Report. Yeah, the Mallard Report. Tune in and listen every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, right online. It's the Mallard Report. Yeah, the Mallard Report.
That's italkparanormal.com. Good night.